They did not lose a war. They lost everything. A kingdom richer than England, stronger than most empires, feared by kings, wiped from the map in less than 3 years. No survivors, no second chance, no mercy. Its ruler died alone in the snow, his face torn, his crown gone, his empire already divided by his enemies. This was not the fall of a city. This was the death of a kingdom. And this is the war that killed Burgundy. History. They hid. In the 15th century, Europe was not ruled by kings. It was ruled by money. And no place on earth had more money than Burgundy. Not England, not France, not Spain. Burgundy. It controlled the richest cities in Europe: Bruges, Ghent, Antwerp, cities where ships from Africa and Asia unloaded silk, spices, gold, and cloth. Everything passed through Burgundian hands. While other kingdoms taxed peasants, Burgundy taxed the world. Its treasury overflowed, its markets never slept, its merchants were richer than most kings. The king of France borrowed from Burgundy. Let that sink in. A king in debt to a duke. And that money did something terrifying. It built power, cannons, fortresses, the best paid army in Europe. While others fought with loyalty, Burgundy fought with gold. At the center of it all stood one man, Charles. They called him Charles the Bold. He was tall, cold, and dangerously ambitious. He did not want to rule Burgundy, he wanted to rule Europe. He dreamed of an empire stretching from the North Sea to the Alps, a new superstate that would crush France and rival the Holy Roman Empire. And for a moment, it almost happened. His banners flew over the richest cities on earth. His soldiers were feared across the continent. His treasury was so full that he could buy loyalty or fear whenever he wanted. Kings began to worry, because when one man becomes too powerful, everyone else becomes smaller. France saw him as a threat. The German princes feared him. The Swiss watched him with hatred. They all knew the same thing. If Charles succeeded, their power would die. So they did what history always does. They conspired, quietly, secretly, patiently. They didn't want to fight Burgundy later. They wanted to destroy it now. But Charles was blind. Power makes men blind. He believed no army could stop him, no alliance could defeat him. And then he made his fatal decision. He turned his eyes south, toward the mountains, toward the Swiss. The Swiss controlled the passes that blocked his empire. They were farmers, infantry, men without crowns. Charles thought they would fall easily. He was wrong. In 1474 he marched. Thousands of armored knights, hundreds of cannons, wagons filled with gold. The army of Burgundy moved like a rolling city. To Charles, this was not a campaign, this was destiny. In the mountains, destiny was waiting, and it was hungry. Charles did not march into war. He marched into a web. While his banners moved south, his enemies were already moving. France, the Swiss, the Holy Roman Empire. Old rivals, new allies, united by one fear: Charles. They didn't need to defeat Burgundy forever. They only needed to break it once. The Swiss were the key, not rich, not noble, but disciplined. They fought in tight formations, with long spears, with iron nerves. Against knights, they were deadly. Charles ignored the warnings. He believed armor and cannons made him unstoppable. He believed gold made him immortal. So he set up camp near a small town called Grandson, confident, relaxed. His men feasted. His tents glowed with torchlight. They believed victory was already theirs. Then the Swiss attacked, not slowly, not honorably. They came like a storm. Their spears broke through the Burgundian lines. Their drums shook the earth. Panic spread. The greatest army in Europe ran. Charles escaped, but behind him his world collapsed, because in his camp were wagons filled with gold, jewels, silver, weapons, the treasure of a kingdom. The Swiss took it all, the richest war loot in European history. Burgundy was humiliated. But Charles was not finished. He never learned. He gathered another army and marched again toward a place called Merton. This time he would not run. This time he would crush them. But war does not care about pride. The Swiss attacked again, harder, faster, relentless. Thousands of Burgundian soldiers were cut down. The elite of Charles's empire died in the mud. Any sane ruler would stop. Charles did not, because now it was no longer about victory, it was about ego. And ego was about to destroy a kingdom. After Merton, Burgundy was no longer strong. It was wounded. Cities began to doubt. Allies began to leave. Merchants began to hide their gold. They could smell fear, and fear spreads faster than armies. Charles tried to pretend nothing had changed. He still spoke of empire, still spoke of destiny, but behind his voice was desperation. He needed one final victory, one moment of power to scare the world back into obedience. So he chose one last target, the city of Nancy, a gateway between France and Germany. If he held it, his empire could still be saved, but the world was no longer afraid of him. France moved, the Germans moved, the Swiss marched. They all came for Burgundy. Charles stood alone. His treasury was nearly empty. His army was half gone, but he refused to retreat because in his mind, a king who retreats is already dead. Winter arrived. Snow fell. Men froze. Food vanished. And still, Charles marched toward Nancy. Hungry, cold, outnumbered. This was not an army anymore. It was a shadow, and the enemies were closing in, quietly, patiently, like wolves. The trap was almost closed.
January 5th, 1477. Snow covered the ground. Outside the city of Nancy, Charles made his last stand. His soldiers were exhausted, hungry, freezing. But behind them, there was nowhere left to run. Across the fields, the coalition gathered. Swiss infantry, French troops, German mercenaries, thousands. All of them there for one reason, Charles. The horns sounded. The Swiss advanced. They did not charge wildly. They moved like a machine. Spears forward, drums beating, boots crushing snow. Charles tried to hold the line. Cannons fired, steel clashed, men screamed. But the Burgundian army was too weak. They broke. First slowly, then all at once. Soldiers threw down their weapons, knights fled, banners fell. The Empire of Burgundy collapsed, and Charles vanished into the chaos. No guards, no crown, no army. Just a man running for his life. When the fighting ended, he was gone. Days passed, snow fell. Then someone found him, frozen in a ditch, his face cut, his body torn, unrecognizable. The man who wanted to rule Europe died alone. With him, Burgundy died too.
With Charles dead, Burgundy had no king, no army, no treasury, no hope. France moved quickly. The Habsburgs moved faster. They carved the kingdom into pieces. The richest cities seized, the fertile lands stolen, the proud banners torn down. The people of Burgundy watched in silence, confused, broken, abandoned by their ruler. The empire that had shaken Europe, that had controlled trade, gold, and armies, was gone in months. No treaties, no rebuilding, no mercy. And yet, almost no one remembers it today. Historians skip it, textbooks ignore it, movies never show it, because history only remembers the winners. The fallen are buried. Burgundy was one of the richest, most powerful kingdoms Europe had ever seen, and it vanished like it had never existed. The gold, the power, the ambition, all gone. All because one man believed he could outrun destiny. History, they hid.
Subscribe and join us as AI brings lost history back to life.